Wings of Fire by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Orientation. Part 3. Through the window of the compartment, I watched the countryside sleep past. From a distance, the men in the fields in their white dhotis and turbans, and the women folk in bright splashes of color against the green background of paddy fields, seemed to inhabit some beautiful painting. I sat glued to the window. Almost everywhere people were engaged in some activity which had a rhythm and tranquility about it. Men driving cattle, women fetching water from streams. Occasionally a child would appear and wave at the train. It is astonishing how the landscape changes as one moves northwards. The rich and fertile plains of the river Ganga and its numerous tributaries have invited invasion, turmoil and change. Around 1500 BC, fair-skinned Aryans swept in through the mountain passes from the far northwest. The 10th century brought Muslims who later mingled with the local people and became an integral part of this country. One empire gave way to another. Religious conquests continued. All this time, the part of India south of the Tropic of Cancer remained largely untouched, safe behind the shield of the Vindhya and the Satpura mountain ranges. The Narmada, Tapti, Mahanadi, Godavari and Krishna rivers had woven a net of almost unassailable protection for the tapering Indian peninsula. To bring me to Delhi, my train had crossed all these geographical impediments through the power of scientific advancement. I halted for a week in Delhi, the city of the great Sufi saint Hazrat Nizamuddin, and appeared for the interview at DTD&P Air. I did well at the interview. The questions were of a routine nature and did not challenge my knowledge of the subject. Then I proceeded to Dehradun for my interview at the Air Force Selection Board. At the selection board, the emphasis was more on personality than on intelligence. Perhaps they were looking for physical fitness and an articulate manner. I was excited but nervous, determined but anxious, confident but tense. I could only finish 9th in the batch of 25, examined to select 8 officers for commissioning in the Air Force. I was deeply disappointed. It took me some time to comprehend that the opportunity to join the Air Force had just slipped through my fingers. I dragged myself out of the selection board and stood at the edge of a cliff. There was a lake far below. I knew that the days ahead would be difficult. There were questions to be answered and a plan of action to be prepared. I trekked down to Rishikesh. I bathed in the Ganga and revelled in the purity of its water. Then I walked to the Shivananda ashram situated a little way up the hill. I could feel intense vibrations when I entered. I saw a large number of sadhus seated all around in a state of trance. I had read that sadhus were psychic people who know things intuitively, and in my dejected mood I sought answers to the doubts that troubled me. I met Swami Shivananda, a man who looked like a Buddha, wearing a snow-white dhoti and wooden slippers. He had an olive complexion and black piercing eyes. I was struck by his irresistible, almost childlike smile and gracious manner. I introduced myself to the Swamiji. My Muslim name aroused no reaction in him. Before I could speak any farther, he inquired about the source of my sorrow. He offered no explanation of how he knew that I was sad, and I did not ask. I told him about my unsuccessful attempt to join the Indian Air Force and my long-cherished desire to fly. He smiled, washing away all my anxiety almost instantly. Then he said in a feeble but very deep voice, "Desire, when it stems from the heart and spirit, when it is pure and intense, possesses awesome electromagnetic energy. This energy is released into the ether each night as the mind falls into the sleep state. Each morning it returns to the conscious state, reinforced with the cosmic currents. That which has been imaged will surely and certainly be manifested. You can rely, young man, upon this ageless promise as surely as you can rely upon the eternally unbroken promise of sunrise and of spring. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. How true! Here was the teacher to show the way to a student who had nearly gone astray. Accept your destiny and go ahead with your life. You are not destined to become an Air Force pilot. What you are destined to become is not revealed now, but it is predetermined. Forget this failure, as it was essential to lead you to your destined path. Search instead for the true purpose of your existence. Become one with yourself, my son. Surrender yourself to the wish of God, Swamiji said. I returned to Delhi and inquired at the DTD and P-Air about the outcome of my interview. In response, I was handed my appointment letter. I joined the next day as senior scientific assistant on a basic salary of rupees 250 per month. If this was to be my destiny, I thought, let it be so. Finally, I was filled with mental peace. No more did I feel any bitterness or resentment at my failure to enter the Air Force. All this was in 1958. At the Directorate, I was posted at the Technical Center, Civil Aviation. If I was not flying aeroplanes, I was at least helping to make them airworthy. During my first year in the Directorate, I carried out a design assignment on supersonic target aircraft with the help of the officer in charge, R. Varadarajan, and won a word of praise from the director, Dr. Neelakantan. To gain shop floor exposure to aircraft maintenance, I was sent to the Aircraft and Armament Testing Unit, A&ATU, at Kanpur. At that time, they were involved in a tropical evaluation of NAT Mk-1 aircraft. I participated in the performance assessment of its operation systems. Even in those days, Kanpur was a very populous city. It was my first experience of living in an industrial town. The cold weather, crowds, noise and smoke were in total contrast to what I was used to in Rameshwaram. I was particularly troubled by the ubiquitous presence of potatoes on the dining table, right from breakfast to dinner. To me, it seemed that a feeling of loneliness pervaded the city. The people on the streets had all come from their villages in search of jobs in factories, leaving behind the smell of their soil and the protection of their families. On my return to Delhi, I was informed that the design of a DART target had been taken up at DTD and P-Air and that I had been included in the design team. I completed this task with the other team members. Then I undertook a preliminary design study on a human centrifuge. I later carried out the design and development of a vertical takeoff and landing platform. I was also associated with the development and construction of the hot cockpit. 3 years passed. Then the Aeronautical Development Establishment, ADE, was born in Bangalore, and I was posted to the new establishment.